Hello there. Today I'm back in New Zealand, but I still have some en-primeur samples to try. So this is an en-primeur sample of Chateau Martinet 2025, Chateau Martinet, Saint Emilion Grand Cru. And this is a small, not particularly well-known estate with 17 hectares of vineyard that sit inside Libourne, in a part of Libourne where the other better-known chateau that exists is Chateau Figeac. The estate has 17 hectares of vines and 6 hectares of gardens of parkland. And although it sits within the outskirts of Libourne itself, you can drive past Chateau Martinet and not know that it's there, as there's a screen of trees that's part of the parkland that means you don't see the house itself. The house is currently owned by the Pradel de Lavaux family. They have some other properties that I've talked about, Chateau Bellevue in Saint Emilion and also Chateau Saint-Pierre in Pomerol. But Chateau Martinet is actually the family home, and today the estates are owned and run by a brother and sister, Axel and Ines. Chateau Martinet came into the family from the Horeau family, having been passed by Louis Horeau to his two sons-in-law, Jacques Pradel de Lavaux and René de Conic. The house at Chateau Martinet is quite a large 18th century house that had formerly been a hunting lodge. And the particular identifying characteristic of Martinet actually is it's relatively rare for Saint Emilion sand and gravel soils. Essentially, the soils here are a continuation of the Grave region of Saint Emilion that is best known for estates such as Chateau Figeac, Cheval Blanc, spreads across slightly into Pomerol, where there are some of the same soils at Chateau Lafleur. Average vine age here is a very creditable 40 years, and yields in 2025 were 35 hectolitres per hectare. Now the fruit is and was in 2025 all harvested by hand. There was manual selection went on prior to destemming and crushing, and the fruit was vinified by plot in small concrete tanks with temperature control. And vatting generally lasts between 2 and 3 weeks. So I would assume in 2025 it might possibly have been that little bit shorter than what it was 2 weeks and 3 weeks. Before the wine goes on to age in barrel, so French oak barrels, for 15 to 18 months. I'm afraid I'm not given any indication of what the proportion of new oak is here, but I don't believe it's particularly high. The blend in 2025 follows quite closely on the planting in the vineyards. There's 66% of Merlot in the blend and 34% of Cabernet Franc. So let's take a look at the wine, shall we? The first thing I would say is that this is a wine with some really nice depth and intensity of colour. It's a purple ruby, there's quite a vivid purple rim, it's holding its colour quite well to the rim, but it's not opaque, I can see through the wine just about. Now the wine has 13.5% alcohol, and swirling it doesn't seem too inclined to cling to the sides of the glass, so I'm not expecting that this will be a huge wine. No, it doesn't seem inclined to form tears on the glass there at all. So let's see what to make of the aromas, shall we? The aromas are of rich, dark fruit, and there's quite a distinct plumminess, and I'm talking sort of dark red to black plum, quite ripe plums, not necessarily the delicacy and elegance and high-toned perfume of damsons, or more the depth and the richness of bullis or something like that. There really isn't any obvious note of oak on the aromas as of yet, but then I would guess that the wine still has time to spend in oak, so it could gain that as it ages. So let's have a taste, shall we? The wine's medium bodied, the tannins are supple, they're rounded. Just starting to see a little bit of grip at the back of the palate there, but really you go through a spectrum starting with ripe red plums that are soft, they're juicy, they've got almost crunchy freshness to it, there's a good underlying acidity here. And then you start to see more sort of black plum, you've got a velvety smooth texture, almost chocolatey smooth as well. And while there is some grip, actually those tannins are nicely supple and rounded. However, you're starting to get more sort of concentration, starting off with sweet licorice and then revealing itself more as bitter licorice core there around which the fruit is displaying itself, and that's where you start to get a little bit of toastiness perhaps and a little bit of drying grip. You've got a combination of quite fine tannins and some good freshness. That's actually giving a mouth-watering element to the back palate and moving on into the finish there. The finish shows us a little bit of that licorice, but it opens up a bit more to show more sort of ripe, juicy, rounded, rich black plum notes. The wine is relatively straightforward. It's not enormously complex, and yet at the same time it has this beautiful fruit purity, length of flavour, a richness and a ripeness. The alcohol is nicely balanced. It's not particularly making the finish feel hot, and it's not overtly emphasising oak spice notes on the wine either. In terms of a score, I would give this wine somewhere in the region of 89 to 91 points. It's a really nicely made, well-balanced wine that's displaying a good depth of fruit with some attractive structure. I don't think it's a wine that necessarily will need long aging, although I think you could very happily keep it in your cellar for 8 to 10 years. But it is just a wine that will be open and appealing almost from the moment that it hits the market in a year or so's time. And I think it's a wine you're likely to find provides some really enjoyable drinking at a very good price. So thank you so much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed the tasting. If you have, do please press the like button. That would be fantastic. If you have friends you think might like to watch the video, do please let them know. If you have any comments or questions, please pop those in the comments box below. I'd be really interested to know what you think about the wines and to hear any questions you have about them or the 2025 en-primeurs in general. So thank you again for joining me, and I do hope that maybe you'll manage to come and join me again in the near future to watch some further video tastings. Till then, bye for now.